California has become the sanctuary of stupid to protect us from using our own brains and actually be smart.
Ignition sequence start. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Obliterating social norms and overrunning the cultural corrosion with righteous rhetoric and common sense. This is Overflow, the extended conversation covering life, today's newsbreakers, and the occasional banter with the most interesting members of the human species. Signaling from the conservative chasm of Central Valley, California. It's the outlaws your conscience warned you about. Let's welcome your hosts, Loto and PhillVill.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another sporadic weather here in Fresno, California, PhillVill. It was just hot last week, bro. Now it's got a chill in the air. But everybody, welcome to episode 36.
36, yeah. There we go.
Hey, let's drop the drip.
We have a great show lineup today. Tucker Carlson is still in the headlines, and he finally responded. We're going to talk about that. And then there's some trouble continuing with the South. There's actually some missing children. And then the woke nonsense is continuing here in the cultural wars. And then the sports and the draft. Loto has some insights and some context he has. We're going to talk about that and a whole lot more with extended conversation here on Overflow EXC Podcast. But first, Loto, there's some things happening with you in ministry.
Man,
what's going on?
We had a good, well, actually, just overall, man, ministry family. We had a great wedding for friends of ours. Well, actually, the boys, our cowboy boys, a ranch family up in the hills here.
Nice.
Had a beautiful wedding, bro.
Oh, were you it? Flower girl this time?
I was the ring boy.
Oh, the ring.
Yes, I was the ring boy. So
you're always the ringleader.
So I rung them up, But no, it was awesome, man. They asked I had the honor of blessing the wedding, ceremony and the and the food and all that. So like I told them, I'm the most important person in the whole wedding because nobody eats until I'm done. So
weddings have the best food, don't they?
Yes. Oh yeah. Well, I mean, the best food is free food. So, the things we do for free food, it's amazing. And then this weekend we were in juvenile hall, and something that just really took me back, bro. Like I was just kind of taken back by the kids' response to something that happened. So we went in there, and the senior said, "Hey, you guys, church is here, but you guys need to shower and you guys need to hurry up." PhillVill. It was such a blessing, man. It was funny, but such a blessing because these kids literally jumped out of their table and out of their seats and ran to the showers. Like they wanted church that much, and they wanted to make sure that they didn't miss it. I mean, that was encouraging, bro. This is happening in juvenile hall, and it was hilarious because there was a line, and they were, somebody had mentioned, hey, double up, and man, that just had us cracking up, But no, we had a fantastic time of ministry with the family. We're so thankful for our boys, the people that they work for out there on the ranch. It was awesome, bro. So that's what it was looking like over here. I'm pretty sure you guys had an awesome week.
Yeah, we had a great time, just relaxing, just being at home, because I don't like the heat. So try to stay indoors as much as possible.
Yes.
But I mean, it's the life of a father of a toddler, right? Mia has, she just loves not going into the pool, but we have a little pool. But she gets her animals, her little elephants, all the animals. She just throws them in there. She names them. So it can be 20 toys thrown at hippo, dog, goldfish. She could do that all day. She never goes in the pool, never gets wet. But that's her her summer.
Whatever.
She's learning. She loves to learn. So.
Awesome.
But that's my week. The toddler dad, and
awesome.
But yeah, we're looking forward to a great show today. But you know what time it is? It's time for.
It's your news makers and breakers.
A follow-up to Tucker Loto. Last week we talked about the bomb that took place in the media corporations, the legacy media they're now calling it. Cable news dropped, Fox News dropped Tucker Carlson, and he went silent for a few days, and people were speculating, but finally he broke his silence with the video. Check this out.
Good evening, it's Tucker Carlson. One of the first things you realize when you step outside the noise for a few days is how many genuinely nice people there are in this country. Kind and decent people who really care about what's true, and a bunch of hilarious people also, a lot of those. It's got to be the majority of the population, even now. So that's heartening. The other thing you notice when you take a little time off is how unbelievably stupid most of the debates you see on television are. They're completely irrelevant. They mean nothing. In 5 years, we won't even remember that we had them. Trust me, as someone who's participated. And yet at the same time, and this is the amazing thing, the undeniably big topics, the ones that will define our future, get virtually no discussion at all. War, civil liberties, emerging science, demographics.
Man, this is powerful. I love that response. Truth is to be spoken. You know, I love what he said about that, and what he said about, you know, that's enough. If there's still some, you know, who still has hope, you know, and still willing to tell the truth, that's all we need. You know, it's just a little embers that'll set the fire, you know, again. I realized something watching this, bro. Ever since Rush left, you know, went on to be with the Lord, I've always wondered, like, who's the next Rush Limbaugh? When this whole thing went down, I quickly realized, you know, last week, this is, you know, not the next, but the new Rush Limbaugh. You know, right here, Tucker Carlson, man. I mean, it's this guy. I love what he says because he's the only one that can say it the way he says it.
There's many commentators. There's many people out there report the news. They comment. They're talking heads. They get some ratings. But the difference between reporting news and making news, that's what I think what happens with his monologues, what he's doing, just like with Rush would do. There's so many people would report on him. And I mean, it's so crazy that when he shared this video, he beat his own time slot. And as this recording, over 79 million views. Yeah. I mean, he's not skipping the beat at all, but nope. Yeah, he did also. Do you think he also got in trouble a little bit about the Heritage Foundation speech?
I believe that had a lot to do with why he was let go, you know? It was the Heritage speech. Matter of fact, I thoroughly enjoyed that speech as well, and I agreed with practically everything that he said during that speech. Mm-hmm. There was one part, bro. I know that we got that clip queued up. You know, he said that it was funny because he gave this big, humongous speech, but actually he only had 2 points. You know, his first point is that we need to be realistic about where we're at. And yes, it's very daunting. He was talking about 2 different types of people. There's people that wants to build, and then there's people that just wants to destroy. You know, and he said, man, it looks like, you know, the destroyers are winning, you know, because it seems like everything, all of our landmarks, all our traditions, you know, all of our values is just being torn down, you know. But he said, but, you know, looking forward, we see a generation that's, you know, ahead of us that really, they're not willing to just go along with everybody. And thank, you know, God for people like Tucker, you know, who sets an example, you know, to stand out. They say the only fish that, you know, flows with the water are dead fishes, right? You know, I appreciate, you know, what he said during this speech. Matter of fact, can we play that cue? Because it was the second point that I really, you know, want to point out.
If you say, well, you know, I think abortion is always bad. Well, I think sometimes it's necessary. That's a debate I'm familiar with. But if you're telling me that abortion is a positive good, what are you saying? Well, you're arguing for child sacrifice, obviously. It's not about like, oh, a teen girl gets pregnant and what do we do about that? And victims of rape. I get it. Of course I understand that. And I have compassion for everyone involved. But when the Treasury Secretary stands up and says, you know what you can do to help the economy? Get an abortion.
He just gave voice to so many of us. We understand that when people, they go through the tough decisions about abortion. Abortion is not easy. It's very complicated, you know? It's a hard thing. That debate, though, today, bro, it's different. And I love how he's framing it. That now it really comes down to, and this is what I think, you know, his opponents or the people that let him go, I think this is what they're afraid of, that he is so good at communicating and framing the right discussion. And this is a discussion that we are now where, man, we're literally looking at the battle of good and evil. Phil, I say all the time, you know, about the war of absolutes, you know? Yes. I'll be honest, for a while now, we've been on the losing side. But I also reminded us that, man, that the good news about that war, it's never over. It's never over. That's why we always, you know, the Bible says that we have to be vigilant. We have to be sober. We have to be diligent. We can never let up. You know, remember, the Bible says that we have to be sober and vigilant because the adversary, our enemy, lurks around like a lion, seeking who he may devour. Nowhere in the Bible did it say that the lion stopped lurking. He's still lurking. He's always lurking. You know what happened? We fell asleep.
Yeah, that's so true. He does know how to frame a thought, frame an idea. When they're talking about the power of persuasion, they couldn't win in that war, because when you lay out the facts, science, or lay out the facts, what a man and a woman is, you lay those certain topics out about abortion, they can't debate it. So they try now to force us to do things. That's it. Just force us.
Yes, and so that's why we know that something changed. It's no longer a debate between Democrat, Republican. It's not a debate. No, now it's different. Even Democrats are they're feeling a certain way when they hear their own party talk about certain things, because there's a lot of Democrats, bro, who they don't think that the answer to our financial crisis here in this country is abortion. I forget who was it that said that, hey, in order to fix our economy, go get an abortion. That totally completely changes the discussion. Yeah. It's no longer, hey, how can we this? I'm not saying anything new. This is what Tucker said, It's no longer like we all have the same goal, that everybody prospers, that we all get a piece of the American dream, and it was where, hey, we disagreed about how we got there. But now, no, this is not even disagreeing about how we get there. It really does come down to the battle of good and evil. But that's why we have such a strong push, with media, with Hollywood, with all these different things, mediums that's trying to eliminate good and evil. They don't want us to believe there's such a thing. They don't want us to believe there's anything like absolutes, because if there's no absolutes, there's no good and evil, then anything goes. And in that type of environment, that kind of atmosphere, only the strong survive. Only the fittest, they rule. And that's what they're trying to do to our country. I say it all the time, bro. They want the chaos. They want the chaos. They want to turn America into a third world country, because that's an easier country for them to run than the country that we have now. And we need to speak up, or else we will lose our country.
New York Post is reporting Republican senators want feds to explain losing 85,000 migrant kids. I guess apparently there's been over 300,000 unaccompanied minors down south. A lot of people are accusing the government for trafficking kids, because there's 85,000 migrant children unaccounted for. They don't know where they're at. And there have been some reports that have been in houses and in labor camps. And I don't know about the accountability of what's going on, but any thoughts on this?
Yeah, it's disheartening. It's actually upsetting. 85,000, 300,000. That's only the kids that they know of. Yeah. What about the ones that they don't know about? Remember James O'Keefe. James O'Keefe reported on this a while back about the sex trafficking and how these kids, our own government was pretty much directly involved with the sex trafficking. That pretty much just got dismissed by them. So I'm glad that, I believe it's Hawley, right? Senator Hawley, that's really ringing the bell on this. And they need to continue to ring the bell on this and not let this thing, just be silenced like they're trying to silence old Tucker, But yeah, so I remember they've just found kids in a meat shop, working there in some really dangerous conditions, so they really need to get to the bottom of this. And again, this is just more signs of those who wants to destroy.
Yeah, I'm looking at a picture of a young girl, and she's cold out there, and it's really, really heartbreaking seeing this. And again, Hawley is really trying to hold the FBI accountable. It says the FBI must mount a full-scale effort to locate these missing children and bring to justice the criminals who are holding them in a modern day slavery.
But what are they doing? They're raiding a former president's, home. They're chasing after pro-life pastors and ministers, because they're the dangerous ones.
Yeah, and you can go down the list. DOJ is investigating parents for speaking out against CRT. Yeah. All priorities are completely wrong. Adversaries are laughing at us. We're worried about these cultural wars, and it's just some mockery of our country. Texas shooting suspect who killed 5 neighbors, including a child, could be anywhere now, but as the day of this recording. But a horrific scene down there. Apparently, a neighbor came to a man who was shooting his gun and asked him to please don't disturb our neighborhood. That guy went back to the house, went inside, killed 5 people. Some escaped, including who died was a 8-year-old boy and his mom. There was a couple parents protecting their kids. They died trying to protect. Man, that's crazy. They died with their arms around them trying to protect the kids.
That's heartbreaking, bro. This is why we need a stronger border. So speaking of destroyers, I believe this guy, it wasn't his first time in the country, right?
No, he's been here 5 times deported. 5 times. Our system's not structured in a way to keep them or to keep them out.
When those who we trust and expect to protect us don't protect us, it's sad because we're left to ourselves to protect ourselves, and we see what happened with this family.
I don't know, Loto, if you caught on NBC, Chuck Todd was interviewing a presidential candidate, Vivek, and he was asking some questions, and I think Vivek put him in his place. Take a listen.
Are you confident that you know that gender is as binary as you're describing it? Are you confident that it isn't a spectrum?
I am.
You know this as a scientist?
Well, there's 2 X chromosomes if you're a woman, an X and a Y. That means
There's
you're
a
a man.
lot
So
of
there's a
scientific
biological basis
research
for
out
this.
there. There's a lot of scientific research out there that says gender is a spectrum.
Chuck, I respectfully disagree. Gender dysphoria for most of our history, all the way through the DSM-5, has been characterized as a mental health disorder. And I don't think it's compassionate to affirm that. I think that's cruelty. When a kid is crying out for help, what they're asking for is, you got to ask the question of what else is going wrong at home? What else is going wrong at school? Let's be compassionate and get to the heart of that.
Loto, so you have to be a scientist to talk about this?
Yeah. And so Chuck Todd's a scientist then? Because he's talking about this? It's funny how he thinks he's the expert. Go ahead.
No, he's immediate. He has the authority in every category.
Yes, yeah, that's right. I forgot. You know, I'm really glad that they had this exchange, bro. We need to frame these discussions again the right way. I love how Vivek, pointed out, why are we causing even more confusion? We see what this has done to those who truly do suffer from this euphoria, and now we want to take it and multiply it on kids who's coming in with problems that might be able to be fixed with just a visit and just some kind of advice, or maybe they need medicine, but they don't need these operations that will permanently change their lives.
How can you win a debate when you're told you need to follow the science, and then you can't contradict science, or you're not a scientist? I mean, I don't even know what the rules are anymore when you have a debate. He was so hung up not on what he was saying, he was hung up on what he was saying, on the verbiage he was saying.
Yeah, again, you can't let these people define the terms and the words that you're going to use, in a debate. You let them do that, they win. But it is silly, right? They want us to follow the science that they agree with, because if we do bring up science that they don't agree with, then we're just bigots, or we're unqualified, and we're not able to respond. But this is very dangerous, bro. I was thinking about this the other day. I thank God, because there's a lot of things that I thought was true and permanent when I was younger, right?
Yeah.
I thought I was always going to be a gangbanger. I thought I was always going to be this drug dealer. I thought I was always like, this is the only life that I have, so I'm just going to make the best of it. I had no idea that when I grew up, things would change, because my perspective would change. My view would change, But when my view changed and God done changed my life, I was able to stop certain things and make a change. With these poor kids, they're giving them operations that like Chloe, right? Yeah. And quite a few, there's thousands now I hear, detransitioners who has regretted the surgery, and the biggest regret of all is they can't go back. They can't just take off a rag, They can't just change their clothes and put on a dress, No, now they've had these surgeries that's made this thing permanent in their lives. And that's the tragedy. It breaks my heart when I hear biological women talking about how they don't think they'll ever be able to have babies. They'll never be able to breastfeed their own child. I mean, that's heartbreaking. And this is what Chuck Todd and those who believe like him, I don't know, for some reason they refuse to acknowledge.
Yeah, and he tried to make it about the full interview about parents' rights to have their kid do that, when they keep on saying, well, we are not for parents' rights when it comes to all the other issues. Like, we're going to take your kids if they want to be affirmed, if you want to or not. So they can't have it both ways.
And it's very sad, bro, because they're all talking after the fact. I mean, the way that discussion is being had, they're saying, well, if the kid's coming home, or the kid wants, to change their sex, or the kid feels like this, and, like the parents should be supportive, or the parents are hateful. The parents, again, are bigots, they're homophobic and all that. But let's remember, these kids didn't just come up with this idea. These kids are being drilled this idea in their schools. So how could these kids not want to come home and have that talk with the parents? Maybe I want to be a girl. Maybe I want to be a boy. So, and so they act as if these kids just came up with this idea by themselves and neglect the fact that, no, these kids are surrounded and they're being indoctrinated to this ideology. How else are they supposed to respond?
It is completely twisted. It's hard to follow a lot of this, what's going on, all the pronouns. And it is just that, the indoctrination of kids. And it feels like a cult.
It is a cult. It is religious.
It's a cult in a way that it's by force with the kids. And don't listen to your parents if your parents believe something different. Breitbart is reporting California moves to ban sale of diesel big rigs by 2036. Loto, they're trying to tell us what to spend our money on. They're trying to tell all the companies, is this going too far?
California has become the sanctuary of stupid to protect us from using our own brains and actually be smart. I don't know about anybody else, but I don't think I'm the only one that has a problem with these people telling us what we can buy or what we cannot buy. Yes, they have taken it too far.
Well, in other news, in sports, the draft has been taking place. It's been breaking all the headlines. And Loto, there's some interesting stories right here. But I know that. Did you watch that, by the way?
No, to be honest, I really didn't. I was in juvenile hall during most of it. But it was kind of like a yawn for me because I don't know if the draft is going to help my team out. We did pick up some good guys though, but yes, there are some really cool stories. I know that there was the Cowboy coach. They recruited his own son.
Man, yes, joker there.
Yeah, I'm not sure if the what is it, the Naple brigade, nepotism and all that is going to start kicking up dust about that. And then we had some cool home stories. We had Derek that went to the Saints, and our very own Fresno State quarterback, got drafted to the Saints as well. The quarterback that's there now.
Oh, really?
Yep. Yeah. And then for the family, man, the kids. So Ty, he played football with the young Jalen Cropper. Amazing athlete. And I mean the athlete. The boy is good at practically anything he does. And he was drafted by the Cowboys too this last week during the draft. So
wow, the Valley's,
shout out to Jalen Cropper, man. Hey, we love you, bro. Way to go. This guy has an amazing story. He would travel hours just to get here in time for school so he can, get to play on the football team. And Jalen Cropper, keep an eye out for him. That boy is the real deal.
Loto, are you a cat person?
Not as much as just as much as I'm a dog person. No, I like dogs. Cats,
Daily Mail is reporting the world's fattest cat finally goes on a diet. Yep, the world's fattest cat. 6-year-old Patches weighed in a whopping 40 pounds. That's the same as the average 4-year-old. And here's a picture of Patches on the screen. The chunky cat called Patches was rescued by an animal shelter in Richmond earlier this month, and he soon became an internet sensation. So they put him up for adoption, and the new owner is now put him on the diet.
Yeah. So what kind of, was it a seafood diet? What kind of diet did cat go on?
Maybe he went on keto.
Keto or catto?
Catto. It took a lot.
He had a few more.
I have to mention this. Mia is going through a phase. She randomly, I think she is now a furry. Is that what we talked about last episode about identifies? I'm just kidding. I probably shouldn't joke like that because she loves a certain character on YouTube Kids, and she pretends to be a cat sometimes. So she walks around and goes meow, meow, and she wants you to say meow back.
See, and that's the thing about this whole gender. What is it? Gender affirmation care, right? They hear that and they'll seriously think, oh, she should be a cat. And
it's just imagination.
They're going to want to, turn into a cat. So it's,
it's just imagination. I remember playing Army as a kid or playing with action figures and, just boxing, wrestling, and all that. You just imagine stuff. So, but yeah. So
It's
that's
imagination, man.
Yes, that's all it is. It's not trying to affirm anything.
So this was Patches.
This is Patches, 40 pounds, and
40 pounds. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's a huge cat. Pretty big. All right, well, that's it for.
It's your news makers and breakers.
So, man, welcome family back to the extended conversation. Today, I want to talk about our children. We just shared a few stories and highlighted some of the dangers that our kids are in. My question is, who's going to look out for them? Who's watching out for them? So many people are trying to convince them that there's something that they're not and getting them confused. And then when the kids come home to us or to parents and they share the confusion with them, the people who confused our kids act if the kids came up with this idea by themselves. But who's looking out for the kids? Mom, dad? Nobody's going to look out for your kid like you are. So I say this all the time. You got to stay engaged. You have to stay engaged. You got to protect your kids. Get educated. Start looking things up. Show up to parents' meetings and all that. There's a lot of great groups out there that helps parents, push back on all these things that they're trying to push on our kids. Because if we don't, you know what's going to happen? Our kids are going to be left to fend for themselves. Something else that we also said. But let me show you.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and only ladies and gentlemen it is and shall always be. I am an 18-year-old high school student and wanted to take this time to bring to your attention the current issue with biological men claiming they are women and in turn truly believing that they are entitled to use women's spaces. There was an incident within our district that occurred recently regarding a transgender woman who really is a biological man having an altercation with a young woman at MLK High School. It was infuriating when I had seen the video on social media, but what was detrimental to this is the fact that this man is and has been using the women's restroom and locker room. Firstly, the question we must address is why are we affirming the mental confusion of this boy and putting the safety of women in jeopardy by allowing mentally confused men to use the women's spaces? Of course, any male who claims he is a woman will accept it. But what about the women? What about the true girls like myself who are female down to our DNA? Why don't we ever get a say in whether or not we are comfortable with this? The truth is we aren't. The majority of us aren't, and yet nothing has been done to protect the safety of these women. I will conclude with this. It all starts with you. You are in charge of the safety of us women and the kids of our parents. So please do something about it. Thank you.
Oh, that was an 18-year-old girl being bold. Actually, she's being brave.
You know us, bro. I'm quick to get spiritual, but this is not even so spiritual. It's right and wrong. It's right and wrong. But again, you have certain people that wants to eliminate right and wrong because, when you don't have right and wrong, anything goes. But though I am glad the kids are standing up for themselves, it's really sad that they have to do it.
Good evening. My name is Claire Mossman, and I'm a sophomore at Pleasant Valley High School. Last September, about 4 weeks into the school year, I was shocked and embarrassed to learn that I had been tricked into taking my clothes off while sharing a locker room with a male student. I was very upset and extremely confused. I didn't understand how my school could do this to me. I am a Christian girl, and I would never choose to take my clothes off in front of a boy. That boy is using my locker room at your invitation, and you didn't even give me a warning or an alternative option. All I got was forced compliance. It could be any male in that locker room watching us undress. It doesn't matter who the guy is. He does not belong in my locker room. Now, I have guys right next to me in the girls' bathroom. How could you ever believe that this is okay? This is the girls' bathroom. I have been to a few of these meetings now, and it is apparent to me that you are not at all considering how it affects everyone involved. My dad called the school this week to complain about my experience with boys in my bathroom. He talked to a vice principal about it. So later that day, she called me into the office, and in so many words, I was told that if being compromised and violated was a problem for me, that I could walk clear across campus to the single-use bathroom up front. Otherwise, too bad, it wasn't my problem, it's the law. What about all the other girls in the same situation as me? Are we all going to walk to the front of the school being late for class, risking being getting in trouble just to be able to feel safe and honor our values when there's a bathroom right down the hall. You continue to say that you are here to serve the students and families in this district. However, it seems that only applies to a select group of people. You have violated my privacy, you have violated my modesty, and you have violated my dignity. To other parents and adults in this room, please, we need your help. It is not just me. I have had countless other girls and guys as well come to me with their feelings and concerns about being violated the way we are. The entire student body is under assault, and the school board and administration are the ones assaulting us.
Wow. I almost am glad that they're standing up for themselves, because just like this girl here, she's doing a fantastic job, speaking up for herself, bro. But again, it is sad that they have to. Ladies and gentlemen, who's going to stand up for these kids? Or are we just going to leave them to stand up for themselves? It's time for us to really step up, step out, and speak out. Find out in your own schools. Go to your children's schools. Stay engaged. And I also want to speak to educators out there, because, bro, we have educators in our lives. And I love mine so much. I married mine, but we all have people that are in education. And so I want to speak to those of you that are watching, your teacher, or whatever role you have in education. I want to speak to your better morals. Time to step up. Time to speak up. And you're not alone. We're hearing stories after stories now of educators that are stepping up. Oh, they're going through some persecution, but this thing is starting to steamroll. And I'm beginning to understand what Tucker really meant, Philip, about, even though everything looks, a disaster, there's a glimmer of hope. There's a glimmer of hope because there's people that are speaking up, but adults, we need to do it so that our kids don't have to.
In the 7th, 10th grade at Nichols Middle School, I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you today. I never thought that the shirt I wore to school on March 21st would lead me to speak with you today. On that Tuesday morning, I was taken out of gym class to sit down with 2 adults for what turned out to be a very uncomfortable talk. I was told that people were complaining about the words on my shirt, that my shirt was making some students feel unsafe. Yes, words on a shirt made people feel unsafe. They told me that I wasn't in trouble, but it sure felt like I was. I was told that I would need to remove my shirt before I could return to class. When I nicely told them that I didn't want to do that, they called my father. Thankfully, my dad supported my decisions and came to pick me up. What did my shirt say? 5 simple words. There are only 2 genders. Nothing harmful, nothing threatening, just a statement I believe to be a fact. I have been told that my shirt was targeting a protected class. Who is this protected class? Are their feelings more important than my rights? I don't complain when I see pride flags and diversity posters hung throughout the school. Do you know why? Because others have a right to their beliefs just as I do. Not one person, staff, or student told me that they were bothered by what I was wearing. Actually, just the opposite. Several kids told me that they supported my actions and that they wanted one too. I was told that the shirt was a disruption to learning. No one got up and stormed out of class. No one burst into tears. I'm sure I would have noticed if they had. I experience disruptions to my learning every day. Kids acting out in class are a disruption, yet nothing is done. Why do the rules apply to one, yet not another? I feel like these adults were telling me that it wasn't okay for me to have an opposing view. Their arguments were weak, in my opinion. I didn't go to school that day to hurt feelings or cause trouble. I have learned a lot from this experience. I learned that a lot of other students share my view. I learned that adults don't always do the right thing or make the right decisions. I know that I have a right to wear a shirt with those 5 words. Even at 12 years old, I have my own political opinions, and I have a right to express those opinions. Even at school, this right is called the First Amendment to the Constitution. My hope in being here tonight is to bring the school committee's attention to this issue. I hope that you will speak up for the rest of us so we can express ourselves without being pulled out of class. Next time, it may not only be me. There might be more students that decide to speak out. Thank you for your time and good night.
Man, something tells me, PhillVill, that these kids are not suffering with their grades. Very articulate, very wise, very smart kids here, And it is so sad that we're not talking about issues with their mathematics, with their reading, with their writing. We're literally talking about sexuality, and these are kids, for goodness. So man, I again, I am encouraged that, we do have a generation that's stepping up and speaking out. It is just sad that, they're left to defend for themselves. Again, family, adults, we need to step up for these kids. We need to speak out. I want to read something for you real quick, or have Philip read something for you real fast. It's found in 2 Kings chapter 17, verses 16 and 17.
So they left all the commandments of the Lord their God, made for themselves a molded image and 2 calves, made a wooden image and worshipped all the host of heaven and served Baal. And they caused their sons and daughters to pass through the fire, practiced witchcraft and soothsaying, and sold themselves to do evil in the light of the Lord to provoke him to anger.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is no longer political. This is now religious. They are literally attacking our religion. They are attacking our spirituality. This goes beyond politics now. I love how Tucker, framed it. That this is irrational unless you think about it in the sense of good and evil. It is evil what they're doing to our kids. And as long as we just stand by and say nothing and do nothing, we're literally feeding our kids to the lions. This scriptures right here talks about a people who was worshiping pagan gods, and they were having their kids walk through the fire, walking on coals. They were sacrificing their kids. But hey, let's not look at them like they're barbaric, because now we're allowing strange adults, we're allowing other people to mutilate our children. We send them off to these places that should be educating them, but it's more like an education camp, if you ask me. So now these kids are being mutilated, and now these kids are in a way going through the fire, walking on these coals and hurting themselves. Let me show you what happens to people that does that to these kids. PhillVill, if you can look at Matthew 18:6, please.
But whoever causes one of these little ones who believe in me to sin, it would be better for him if a milestone were hung around his neck and he were drowned in the depth of the sea.
That is a stern warning to those of you who's in the business of convincing kids that they're transgenders. That's in the business of coaxing a kid into having these surgeries or having these operations or having these what is it, the gender of affirmation care. This is what God has to say about that. That you're literally causing these kids to go into sin. And these are precious little kids. God's not just going to stand by. Oh, you might be standing by. Believe you me, God is not standing by. He will defend these kids. He will stand up for these kids. But I'm warning you, step away from this. If you're involved with this type of thing, it's time for you to step up and say no, because you know in your heart of hearts that it's wrong. There's no way that you can't know unless you are the evil one. But that's your decision to make. Really, you're showing it by the decisions that you make or the decisions that you don't. It's time for us to speak up for these kids, because here's the reality of what happens when we continue to allow our kids to go through this. There was an article, right, Phil, about a young person who went through the transgender operations. Can you read that article to us, or part of it?
Yeah, the Post Millennial is reporting that trans teen died from vaginoplasty complications during landmark Dutch study used justified child sex changes.
So if you were to read on to this, you'll find out that they actually did a study, and they even used this study to promote these type of things. But this is a young kid who went through the operation. After the operations, he died. The reason why he died is because he was taking hormones. You see, he was going through an operation that changes his sex physically. And because of the hormones that he was taking, it stopped the natural growth of what he was biologically. Parts that they actually used for this surgery. And because there wasn't enough of it, they tried a different route. That different route caused him to catch a necrotizing infection. This is something where the cells end up attacking each other and it gets infected, and the infection spreads quickly. This young man had all of his organs shut down and he died. They tried everything to save him. man, he didn't even have to die. Chuck Todd said earlier about, don't you care about kids committing suicide? Well, if Chuck Todd wants to be consistent in his thought process, he should be against the transgender operations, because there's a lot of people who has operation that's committed suicide. These are the things that we need to speak up about. And there's not enough data to have these kids make these permanent decisions. At least get some more data so that we keep the kids safe. But everything that we know of, it doesn't keep the kids safe. Look, these kids are walking into counselor's office and just sharing with them that they're having a hard day. And somehow these counselors, these people that are supposed to be protecting our kids, are convincing them to take part in the gender affirmation care, which causes devastations like this. I can't imagine, PhillVill, how the family feels for that kid that they lost.
Definitely needless death. And the indoctrination that's happening, and we're seeing that young boy stand up. I wish somebody stood up for this person that died before this took place. And that boy that did speak in front of the board, he was pointing out that he felt he was in trouble, but he wasn't in trouble. They talk about bullying in school. We got to stop bullying. But they don't realize now what's taking place. The very bullies that is happening is those in authority. The teachers, the vice principals, the indoctrination, they're trying to bully themselves and force an agenda. But yeah, we need to continue to speak out, and I'm glad that we're speaking out here on Overflow. And thank you again for joining us today. We want you to speak out where you're at. And Loto?
The way things are going is you think everybody supports, being a transgender, or everybody wants to be a transgender. When you look at the numbers, it's only a percentage. And that percentage, don't get me wrong, those are people who really matter. But the reason why it sounds so loud is because of the rest of us who actually don't believe in this are staying quiet. So again, like PhillVill said, speak up, speak out. Love y'all. See you next week. Lord bless.
You've been listening to Overflow, the extended conversation, obliterating social norms and overrunning the cultural corrosion with righteous rhetoric and common sense. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to like, rate, and review. And we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hit us up on social media at OverflowEXT. Lord bless, and we'll see you next time on Overflow, the extended conversation.